time for Pawn of the Dead. Join us!
Hello and welcome to Pawn of the Dead, the internet horror film club that nobody asked for. I am your host, Nicholas, and as always, I am joined by the final girl, Natasha.
Hello there. If you want more from us, check out our links in the description below. And we also have a Patreon, and thank you to our members who have already joined. As a member, you get voting power for a movie choice, as well as the first look at our movie lineup each month. As always, don't forget to spread the love by rating and reviewing on Spotify or wherever you listen. Your support means so much. On this week's episode, we are going over 2023's When Evil Lurks. This is an Argentinian folk supernatural horror film written and directed by Damian Rugna, starring Ezekiel Rodriguez and Damian Solomon. The movie takes place in a remote village where two brothers, Pedro and Jimmy, attempt to skip town when a demon-infected man is found to just about give birth to evil itself. They decide to get rid of the body and flee, only to end up unintentionally spreading chaos to the entire area.
So, going into, this is our second film for Foreign Film February. Last week being Martyrs from France. This week, now we're in oh my God, I can't say the word.
We're in Argentina.
Argentina. You said Argentinian, so my brain just kept going like Argentinian. No, it's Argent. Oh my God.
It's like Canadian and Canada instead of Canada.
Yeah, you broke my brain. So, going into this week's homework, what is your history with this film?
Very little. I've seen your shirt that you are proudly displaying today. I had really no idea what to expect, and I read the synopsis going into this movie, and was a little not super stoked about it, knowing that it was a quote possession movie.
Correct.
So very little. This is my first watch.
Yeah, mine was, there's a lot of fucking hype about this movie. Not like overly, like it's not like it was overhyped, but like it just kept showing up. Like Rue Morgue, Fangoria, all this stuff. And then it hit Shudder right before Trick or Treat for me in 2023. And so we did Trick or Treat, and it was like I think it was on a Friday night, maybe it was a Saturday night. So I was able to stay up late. I didn't have to work in the morning. I drink during Trick or Treat. I have some drinks, and like we have music blaring in the front yard with like our heavy metal skeletons like going and everything, and this whole shebang. So we get inside, and Noelle's home with us and everything, and I was just like, I'm gonna watch a fucked up horror film. I hear this movie's crazy. You gotta read. And she's like, I put subtitles on regardless. I was like, cool. So we watched it then, and since then I have watched it a few times since, and then there was, I can't remember if it was Creeporama or something like that, put out the shirt like a month later, and I was like, mine need. So that's my history with the film. So this came out in 2023. There's nothing, I could not find anything about its budget.
Yeah.
Because this is a very independent film. It is like not self-financed. It's not that Rugna financed it or whatever, but it's not from a big production studio. It's not from a production studio really at all. So he went around, and because of that, he and like his producers and stuff were able to just do what they wanted. They didn't have to listen to, higher ups going, well, maybe you should do this, maybe you should do that. And he was like, well, I want to make a film for the horror fans. He had made some films prior to this one. He made a film called Terrified. That is another top tier horror film. Like, Damian Rugna is like a really, really fucking good director, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the future.
Cool.
But both of his films are viewable on Shudder. They're Shudder originals or whatever, however you want to word that. They bought the rights to it.
Right.
But then just recently They've been viewable on Hulu, which is hilarious because if you've got Hulu and Disney, I specifically rewatched this through the Disney app to watch this movie through Disney.
It's so weird. It's such a mind fuck when you can like have a Disney account for your kid and then you have to make sure that they're not scrolling onto this.
I don't know. It's got the kids in it, like all good things happen to kids in this movie. So
okay.
So yeah, this came out in 2023. It had a limited release in the States and everything, but it did release internationally for a little bit, and it ended up actually making more of its box office internationally than it did here in the States. But on its undisclosed budget and a smaller run, what do you think it made worldwide in theaters?
I think it made over $100 million.
You think it made over $100 million?
Okay, apparently not.
Well, no, I just want you to keep in mind that like a movie like Five Nights at Freddy's made like $137 million. So you're thinking,
fine. But I liked this movie more than I liked Five Nights at Freddy's, so it's based solely on my interpretation of it.
Okay, $100 million. That's fine.
Okay, yeah, we'll just go with it.
This movie deserves to have made $100 million. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Exactly.
This movie made $2.1 million.
Oh.
That's why it was...
Womp, womp.
Yeah, that's okay, though. It is far superior, in my opinion, than most of the films that came out in horror in the box office that year. So going back to 2023, Thanksgiving came out that year, which we've covered on this podcast. The Boogeyman came out, which is not a bad film. Talk to Me came out.
Okay.
So that's another good one. Saw 10, Jesus Exorcist Christ. Believer, Evil Dead Rise, which wasn't bad. Good, Insidious, The Red Door. I think that's the fifth one. The Nun 2.
Jesus.
Mithrigan, or Megan, as most people know it.
I like that.
Scream 6. And then the number one horror film for 2023 was Five Nights at Freddy's.
Jesus, this movie should have made so much more.
Yeah, and if it's one of those things, it would have made more if it had a big production house behind it, but we also wouldn't have got the film that we got.
That's fair.
Because there would have been too many cooks in the kitchen,
Or not even like a bigger production company, but just a bigger marketing company. I don't know how that works, but
what this is doing though is with Terrified, with When Evil Lurks, like people are starting to look at him. And he's going to get more backing. Because look at what he's able to do with like his minuscule amount of money. Like that's kind of like James Wan. Like that's kind of where he came from with like Saw. It's like look at what he was able to do. Like we don't have to give this guy a lot of budget, and he's able to knock it out of the park. So I'm really hoping that happens with Damien Rugna, because I'm very interested in seeing what he comes up with. Also, 2023 wasn't that long ago. I'll just kind of run through this real quick. We also got the movies like Wonka, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Fast X, which is one of Tasha's favorite movies, it seems, considering she wants to make Ghost Ship into a Fast and the Furious movie. Well, no, that's Speed 2. Speed 2 is the one on the boat.
Okay, gotcha.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Oppenheimer, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and the top film for 2023 was Barbie. But within all of that, we get this amazing Argentinian film. I mean, we're kind of like giving up the ghost. We both like this movie, right?
Right.
We'll just say that, like, no spoilers. It's a good movie. It's a good movie.
It's good.
So Damien Rugna said that he got the idea for When Evil Lurks when a series of news stories about farm pesticides in his native Argentina caused widespread health issues. He suggests that corporate apathy about the workers' health and the way the issue occurred out in the middle of nothing, where it's easy for profiteers and city dwellers to ignore the impact of their choices, started him thinking about the idea of lurking evils given free rein to spread. So, unbeknownst to me, the last two movies, this and Martyrs, are very prevalent to our current time.
Yeah. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, I was not intending on that, but like once I was reading that, I was like, oh my fucking God. Like, it's amazing that like it's these social economic things that, you know, inspire this kind of art, that it's just like, I have something to say and I'm going to do it in a way that people will watch, because he didn't want to make a documentary. Obviously, he's a horror fan and like this is what he wants to do. But it's always interesting when that's the inspiration for something like this.
And this is so much more visceral than watching the news. You watch the news and you get pissed. I mean, that's what I've been doing lately.
Yeah.
But then you watch this and you see it in a graphic interpretation of something that doesn't come across as terrible, I guess, if you will. And it hits you differently. And then you read about it and you go, oh yeah, there are so many parallels to that if we were just taking it in this direction. Correct.
So like talking about like how visceral it and stuff it is, he's like, he was interviewed and the interviewer was like, I appreciate that while the violence is brutal, it's really only used to accentuate or illustrate certain points in the film. It's not gratuitous. Mm-hmm. So how do you choose when to deal out the violence? And Damien said, I tried to make a different movie, one that I am terrified of. It's still a horror movie, but not a jump scare movie. Womp womp, Natasha.
I beg to differ.
But the idea is to prepare the audience for something really cruel. Evil is coming. All the characters are afraid of what is going to happen. When it finally happens, the idea is, okay, this is the first stop in this journey into hell. And I think that like there are scenes in this movie where like the first time I watched it, there are a couple scenes that I'm like, man, I feel really uncomfortable. I hope what I'm feeling isn't what's going to happen. And before I can finish that thought, it's worse.
Yeah, it's worse. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because like he does a really good job of just kind of like sitting on shots for just a little too long. And you're like, why are we here? And yeah. That's
one of my favorite things that a director can do, is that uncomfortable pause.
Yeah, that weird linger. And he's fantastic at it. So inspirations for this movie, he was inspired by The Evil Dead, The Wailing, which is a Korean horror film, which I have not seen yet. It was on our list for this month of voted on movies to be voted on. So it's probably too late to vote now, but if you go to our Patreon, every month there is a list of like 5 or 6 movies that the patrons get to pick from that are all sorts of varied. But another film that he was inspired by when making this was The Road, which you are a huge fan of.
I am. I love Cormac McCarthy. That is my favorite book, and it's a phenomenal movie.
And you can kind of see that, like once like it was said, I was like, oh yeah, it is kind of this like, this is kind of pre-apocalypse where The Road is post-apocalypse, but this like journey to try and find safety in a world that is, there is nowhere to be safe.
Yeah, this is essentially the beginning where in The Road we meet well down the line.
Yeah, this is the prequel. This is the prequel
Very
to
cool.
The Road.
Yeah, this could be how it all started.
Yeah.
I really like Damien's take on how the possession just like spreads through the environment.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the pesticide thing that links really well with like, it's not just in a person, in a singular person, it's taking over this entire community and nobody's
essence.
Really listening. Yeah. You have the people that are like, this is happening. I saw it. I can't tell you how I saw it. And then there are the people that are just like, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't have enough information to tell me what actually happened.
Yeah, and there's just
it's like doubt. We're living through it, right? Yep. Instead of just believing the people that are living through the peril, essentially, and
correct.
helping.
Yeah. So again, he was interviewed and was asked, I really enjoyed the father-son angle in the movie and how you have a male protagonist, but he is still vulnerable and relatable. This role is usually for a final girl. Why change up the formula? And he said, thanks for your observation. I decided to make this character a male because whether he is demon hunting or running away from the real demons. At the same time, this is a man who is running away from his inner demons. He has a real bad past. He is already damaged, and all the people think he's crazy. He's running away from the demon, but his demon is in his head, and he cannot run away from himself. And I really like that. Like, I didn't make that that comparison that like Pedro is a final girl, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, but I think that that's an interesting take on it. Like, that, yeah, him and Jimmy are like the final girls of this film. Not to give anything away, but they're the lead brothers. Not that they make it to the end or anything like that, but they are co-protagonists for the most part. So, we wish that this movie got more love, right?
Of course,
because it's the little movie that could, and it's still relatively new. But here in America, we can't leave well enough. So Natasha and we got millions upon millions of dollars, and we're going to do our own little dream production, reimagining, if you will, of When Evil Lurks. So, Natasha, would you like to tell me how you would, like, what director and what cast you would put together for Natasha's When Evil Lurks?
Yeah, I will. I'm going to start with my actors. I did three. I did Mirta, Damien, and Pedro. This was so hard to pick because the actors in this movie were absolutely phenomenal. So it was almost like I couldn't make it better. But if I had to pick, Pedro would be Pedro Pascal.
Okay, I can see that. So are you
circa The Last of Us? I mean, it's kind of the same role.
Yeah, it's got a feel.
Yeah. I have a hard time going like you go like completely out into left field. I like to keep it kind of similar. Yeah. His brother Damien.
Damien's the actor, Jimmy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jimmy. Yes, Jimmy, played by Damien Solomon.
Yeah.
I was pulled to have Jeremy Renner play that role.
I can see that.
Of like a tough yet soft kind of guy.
I can also see, like, with your casting there, like a Norman Reedus kind of guy.
I could see Norman Reedus.
I'm just like,
but I picked him last week. Like, he's already busy in Ghost Ship. So
That's true. True. We got hands and all sorts of things. So.
Yeah. Mirta, who plays this cleaner. I don't know how else to describe her. I like the idea of, and we're not talking about like current day. This is like
anytime
old. I want like
this could have Humphrey Bogart and Timothée Chalamet in the same movie. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. The other two, I'm cool with modern day, but I want like an old Penelope Cruz.
Oh, okay. Like you mean Penelope Cruz back in the day?
No, Penelope Cruz, the age of Mirta.
Oh, you're doing future Penelope Cruz.
Future Penelope Cruz. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's funny that you mentioned The Road because I want John Hillcoat to be the director, who is the director of The Road.
Oh, that's fucking crazy. So like we didn't talk about that previously and everything. No. So you picked up on that hard.
I did. And I didn't know what his name was. I was like, as I was thinking about a director, I was going through kind of the common ones. I was like, no.
All right.
But I want The Road.
So I sent you a text message just right now. So you have a visual representation of the people that I'm talking about. Okay. So my dream production of this film is I'm not going to be able to remake this film to be as impactful as it is.
You took a completely different direction.
So I'm going to completely reimagine this, and I'm going to get a hold of Edgar Wright, director of Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and he is going to direct this movie. Okay? So Pedro is going to be cast by Dylan Moran. Dylan is most notably known, he's like the bespectacled, like assholey boyfriend in Shaun of the Dead. He's also in Black Books. He's in a movie called Run Fat Boy. I think it's Run Fat Boy Run or something like that. So super like he like that's where we're going with that. Jimmy is going to be Simon Pegg. So those are our brothers running through the wasteland.
Okay.
Ruiz, who is the like landowner and stuff, will be Bill Nighy, who is Sean's dad or stepdad in Shaun of the Dead.
I can see that one. I guess.
Sean's not Sean, Jesus Christ. Pedro, played by Dylan Morans, his ex-wife Sabrina is going to be played by Tamsin Greig, who is most known for she was in Shaun of the Dead. She was also a lead in Black Books. I think that she would play that part really well and funny.
Okay.
Sarah, who is the mom in this film, the elderly mother, that's going to be Penelope Wilton, who is from Shaun of the Dead. That's Sean's mom. And then and then Uriel, our antagonist at the beginning of the film, that is going to be played by Nick Frost.
Of course it is.
So this movie is, I'm not even going to try to redo what Damien Rugna has done because I can't. Like, there's no, like, I would not feel right taking this and being like, hey, James Wan or Damien Leone or whomever, you know, the hot directors are right now in America, remake this film that is already tonally perfect. Like, it just is its thing. No. So what are we doing? Edgar Wright, I want you to, like, take this and do like your Shaun of the Dead spin on it, like you did with Dawn of the Dead and all that kind of stuff. Take When Evil Lurks, take like your English cast that you kind of work with a lot, and then just do it, you know, like just see what happens. I want to see this kind of mix up.
It's funny that you mentioned like go in a comedic route, because there are quite a few interviews that Damien Rugna, I've heard it pronounced both ways. How Damien Rugna puts black comedy and really looks into black comedy as part of his writing style.
Oh yeah,
so it's cool that you went that direction.
There's stuff in this that's like, it's so outlandish that it's shocking, but at the same time you can't help but laugh, because like laughter, at least for me anyhow, laughter is a nervous reaction. You know, so like when shit like goes sideways, like it can be the worst fucking thing you've ever seen in a movie, as long as I know it's fake. Like, this isn't talking about watching like Holocaust documentaries and shit.
Right.
Like I'm not sitting there like or anything like that. That stuff like I can't deal with. But like when you're watching a movie and you know it's fake, but it's shocking, I can't help but just like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
You know,
like they went there. There are definitely a couple scenes in this movie. Yeah.
It's just like, holy shit. Because that's what I tried to kind of warn you about going in here, is like, it's violent. It's not violent like Martyrs. Like, you're not going to sit in it, but you're going to be like literally shocked, because it's not that it's the most shocking thing. Well, I'm just saying, like, well, you know, mileage may vary depending on what you've seen.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not that it's the most shocking things you've ever seen, but that doesn't change the fact that it shocked you that these things happen.
Right.
So
there were definitely a couple times where I like exclaimed out loud. So it might not be a jump scare, but it was a, oh shit.
Exactly. Like that's
reaction.
Every single time I watch this film, I have like, I'm not shocked that certain things are going to happen because I know they happen. But every time they happen, they're no less easier to see. Like it's just always a bad time.
It's always a bad time.
I would like to shout out the special effects people. So Marcos Berta, Franco Barattini, Roman Kempelmacher, and Costanza Puglisi. I am so sorry. I do not speak Spanish or any version of that, so I apologize about butchering your names. But I did want to shout them out because the special effects, the makeup in this film, especially like when we're talking a small budget, fucking awesome. Like so good. But
100% agree.
Yeah, like God, there's a lot that I want to talk about, but I think that
let's get into it.
We gotta get into spoiler territory.
Yeah.
So if this is your first time listening to Pot of the Dead, hello and welcome. At the end of every episode, we give out homework so you can watch the film and hopefully listen to next week's episode and get into spoiler territory. If you don't give a shit about spoilers or have seen When Evil Lurks, stick around and we're going to get into it. So let's sit back, crack open some apple ice cream, and talk about When Evil Lurks.
If you'd like to be part of our horror film club, make sure to follow us at Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at Pot of the Dead. All of our episodes can be found at potofthedeadorelse.com or wherever you stream music and podcasts. If you have movie recommendations or questions for us, email us at potofthedead666@gmail.com. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Or else. I want some apple ice cream.
I know.
I wasn't expecting it to be green.
No, I don't know what I expected it to be, but apple ice cream sounds amazing because you don't.
Right.
Apples and cream, it's not a thing that comes to mind.
Oh, apples and cream, yes.
Because
apple ice cream.
Yeah, but ice cream is cream. It's kind of in the.
I get that.
It's apples, ice, and cream. How did you not think of cream and apples?
I didn't. Like I said, I wasn't expecting it to be green. That's what threw me.
Well, it could be Granny Smith's. God damn.
Apparently it was. I don't know. Sour apple?
Oh, that'd be tart and cream.
Yeah.
I'm about that.
I like that.
Okay.
Let's go get some.
Let's go.
Oh, wait, we're on a podcast.
Yeah, we're on a
Let's do it.
podcast. So if you want to send us some apple ice cream, email us some apple ice cream at potofthedead666@gmail.com. Or if you know a place to get apple ice cream, because I just kind of want it. All right. So Natasha.
Okay.
Would
Yes.
you please give me that 10 out of 10 review that I found online?
Sure. This little known horror movie got my attention on a social media site where someone said they couldn't sleep after seeing it. Curiosity got the best of me, and even though the movie is subtitled, they weren't kidding. The movie is scary and gory for fans of gore makeup effects. Seriously, the tension in this movie builds up from the start, and it had me on the edge of my seat. I couldn't help but imagine, what if this could actually happen? I mean, the setting is a small town a majority of people have never heard of, and there's a paranoia factor of being labeled the town nut, and even when you seek out help from the police, the authorities simply dismiss you. So, what do you do at the point except plot yourself your own escape and save yourself? Throughout it all, there's something of a humanity factor of family and fear of what's unknown. There's a demon coming in this movie, and it's actually frightening. No spoilers, but the third act will satisfy true horror fans. If you don't mind subtitles, this might be the best horror movie of 2023 Halloween season. I gotta agree.
Yeah, it does. It does a lot. I thought that this movie was longer than it was coming into it. And then seeing that it's 140-ish or whatever, I was like, they get all of this shit in an hour and 40 minutes. Yeah. And then watching it for the podcast, I'm like, this movie does not give up. It is foot on the gas the whole time, just and just keeps going until there's just crying.
Yeah. And then crying interspersed.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I agree with that 10 out of 10. I kind of had that same feeling. I watched it right around Halloween and stuff, and I was like, this is fucking amazing. Goddamn.
Yeah.
So instantly I was like, we're going to watch this year for Foreign Film February. This was the first movie that I put on the list.
Oh, yeah.
And then
solid choice.
Yeah. All right.
If you must.
I guess can I veto the 1 out of 10? You tried to do it in the past. Can I veto the 1 out of 10?
Of course you can veto it, but I think we still have to read it.
Fine. All right. I want my time and money back. This film is absolute chaos, and not in a good way. You get thrown into a world where a possessed or a man sawn in half is a normal occurrence, and the police not attending to such matters is also standard. What follows is a series of events that don't make any sense, with characters who are completely idiotic and just incompetent. Totally incomprehensible dialogue in a script that just makes up things as it goes along. Listen here, lady. That's what writing fiction is making things up. Okay.
Yeah.
Throw in some mild gore. Okay, hold on. So
I know. I want to know what they watch.
like, we're throwing all this shit, but then like the gore isn't even enough yet. Like,
right?
Okay, they're just sawn in half and possession and some mild gore. I'm like, what? Okay.
Wait a second.
Where am I? Throw in some mild gore, some of which could have been interesting or original if it was played or done well, but most of it isn't. See goat rifle axe scene. Also, using dead children as a shock factor is a cheap shot and gets old very quickly. I can confidently say that I hated every minute of this incomprehensible mess, and I just simply don't understand what others see. Also, I would like to speak to your manager, because that is some of the most Karen reviewed, like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Like, that's, oh my God. Like, I
gotta say, I've seen a lot of horror movies, and there's some pretty creative gore in this one.
yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know what people want anymore. Like, goddamn, if this doesn't, like, if you come across this movie and it doesn't at least like check a couple boxes for you, I don't know what you're looking for, right? Because like,
Right.
she's saying, I'm saying she, we're gonna say he, I'm gonna mix it up. Chad is saying that that the script is just making stuff up along the way. No, like they kind of lay out like these are the rules, and but like also people don't follow those rules, and because of not following those rules, bad things happen. Like literally every time a rule is broken, bad stuff happens. Like so.
The rules are definitely different than I've ever heard.
Yeah, I really like the new rule set. There's the 7 rules for dealing with the rotted and the possessed, and they're roughly this. I do have them. So 1, do not use electric lights. The shadows they cast draw them in. I think that's fucking amazing. That's such an awesome idea. Stay away from animals. Do them no harm. Take nothing close to them. They're attached to it. Never say the devil's name. That calls them. Never use a gun. You'll die yourself. Because they explain it has something to do with black powder.
Yeah.
And then
the powder spreads.
Yep. And then do not fear death. And like, that's like, you can't do that. But those are the rules. That's how you survive. And anytime that any of that shit happens, evil comes a knocking. Literally, like, I don't even know. Okay. So, do we just kind of want to start at the beginning and work our way through a little bit?
I think that's the best way to do it, because there's so many things I want to talk about.
Exactly.
We'll try our best to keep this on the rails.
Yeah, we're going to try and start doing that from now on, because we go all over the place, but we're still going to go all over the place. We're still going to take our little like Gaiden side stories like, oh, what about this thing? But just for our own sanity, let's try.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start out, right? The brothers hear some gunshots. They go to fucking find out what they were hearing in the middle of the night, and they find a split man with a map to a neighbor, like someone that lives close-ish by, because they live way the fuck out in the middle of nowhere. They come to the house. They find a lady that was expecting not a priest, but a cleaner kind of thing, I think is what they kind of refer to it as. And we find Uriel, which is our rotted. And that is a puppet. That is
by 4 people.
Yeah, fucking awesome.
Amazing work.
Yeah, massive, bloated, gross from literal head to toe. Trying to get him out of there. And like, I think they do a good job of like making it gross, but not like super gross. Like, you know, when they're picking him up with the sheets, you're seeing like the little like drippies, but it shows it like the one time. you know,
Yeah.
like, and like he just looks wet and pussy, and
I think a boil pops at one point.
yeah, it's gross. It's fucking gross.
He's like
So-
melted into the bed.
So okay, we got to this point in the movie. What's your thoughts right now?
That's how it started, and we've already seen the insides of a person where a dog is trying to eat them, and a pus-filled man. And I was like, all right, well, Nick did say it was going to be gross. Here we go.
Yeah.
I love that it's a cleaner and that they took the religious aspect out of it. That's something that I don't care about when it comes to a possession movie. So it was like this line between, is it like zombie? Is it possession? How is this going to work? So I was slightly confused at the beginning, which isn't a bad thing. I enjoyed how it started.
And I think
if that makes sense.
I think they clean that up though also later on in the film by explaining like why they're the way they are and stuff.
Right.
But-
So this guy has been there for like over a year.
Yeah,
just
that's insane.
decaying. Yeah.
That's the thing that like you kind of forget like going through it. It's like, you know, possession stuff. It's like, oh, it's usually like, oh, it's been a week or whatever. We've been waiting a year, and no, like that's when like the whole thing of Damien Rugna talking about, you know, people out there are forgotten and stuff because they're not in the cities and they're not the corporations and stuff, and that's where that leans in really hard. It's just Uriel is rotting and they need someone to come out here and kill him properly. Like that's the thing, kill him properly, which they don't really fucking understand, like because this stuff is not like talked about really, you know,
Right.
how, because, you know, possession, demons, spiritual stuff, all that kind of stuff, there's always, you know, I don't believe in that kind of stuff, but like if this is what I walk into and someone's like, he's been like this for a year, there's something fucking wrong, I got a fucking priest coming, I'm like, I will help you. I will help get that priest here because I don't know what the fuck we're dealing with.
Yeah, it was interesting when they went to the sheriff, and this like they talked as if the rotten like was a thing that's like in the the zeitgeist. They know of it. It's almost like some people like global warming. Like,
yeah.
like it's that, like there's so many parallels with that. So when Pedro goes to the sheriff and they're like, you know, they said that they called you a year ago and you're just now sending somebody out, and the sheriff's just like, oh, no one got to us, it's not a big deal, we'll figure it out. Now we're gonna let this other organization try to take care of it.
It's like that people needing help and it just getting halted up by bureaucracy and
right, because I think they passed it off to like the public health official or something like that.
It's like, no, this motherfucker needs to be got now, you know.
Right.
So they get a hold of Ruiz, who is the landowner from here. So like Pedro and them like rent property off of Ruiz. Ruiz doesn't really like him, so there's like this like kind of tension. That's like that's the nice thing about this movie too, is that it just kind of drops you in the middle of this world. Like it just it doesn't give you like this like, oh, in the la 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 and all this stuff, and this is all this backstory. It's just like, no, you're just gonna like be in it, and there is a history here, but we're not gonna over explain stuff. So like Ruiz, is that Ruiz? Ruiz? Oh,
Ruiz.
See when I thought I heard him say Ruiz when I was watching it. Regardless, Ruiz.
Okay.
When it is what I'm going to butcher everything. He shows up and he's going to help him get him out of there and everything. He goes home and there's like some shit going on with the goats, and
Always a goat.
it's always a goat. But this,
goats.
okay, dare I say, this goat is a better goat than Black Phillip in my book as a spooky goat.
Yes, I agree with that.
So
Because that goat like steps to Ruiz, like he's just, all right, put the gun right to my head, do it.
that is so fucking creepy, because like
Yeah.
the rotten, the possession, the evil, right, is wanting you to break the rules, because then it's going to spread more. So like his wife is like, no, don't do it, please don't, we have a kid on the way, all of this stuff. And even previously, Uriel is like, kill me so I can spread to your unborn kid. Like, that shit is so fucked up.
Yeah. And he's so fixated on get this thing off of my land. It's polluting my land. I'm going to take this into my own hands and kill the goat. I did read, I don't know if you read anything about that scene.
I did. Go ahead.
I love the visual of them trying to shoot this because the director said that the goats were just like legit crazy and wouldn't do what they were supposed to do even when lured in with food. Also found out that goat that was the possessed goat was like due to be slaughtered, I think the day before, like within that time frame.
Yeah.
And the
they were going to
production
make barbecue out of it.
Yeah, and they were all like, "No, don't do it." And then like, this is such a great story. You never hear awesome things that happen to animals on on horror movie sets. And then they ended up like saving the goat, and the goat actor ended up having babies, and the farmers sent the director pictures of the babies.
Yeah, because she's famous now. She's famous, so she got to survive.
It's so great.
Yeah,
but it took like, what, 10 hours or something like that to shoot that scene just because the goats were being nuisances as goats are.
Yeah, they only had 10 hours and like the daylight was shifting and all this stuff. So like they had to get it fucking done. And he says that that's his least favorite scene in the movie because all he can think about is how much of a fucking nightmare it was. Because there's always that thing of like, never work with animals, never work with children. Like that's just kind of the thing in Hollywood and like just making films. This movie works with both of them a lot.
Yeah, and you're working with a notoriously crazy animal of a goat, and a herd of them to boot.
Oh fuck yeah! But yeah, that fucking goat walks up, fucking Ruiz blasts it, and then the wife fucking kills him with an axe. And then proceeds to fucking smash her own face in with the axe. Okay, so this is it. There we go. I was going to say, this is an audio platform, Natasha.
I know. But sometimes it's just so bad.
Just squirming and falling out of her chair, basically.
Sometimes it's so bad, like you can't even make a sound. It's just pure... But the fact, like not even the fact that she takes the fucking... axe to her head, but she takes it and then it pans away and she's doing it just like so slowly, like with her last dying breath. The last little bit of what her neurons can fire into those muscles is to hack at her brain. Oh my god.
Yeah, the last, like, as she's falling over, she's trying to hit herself in the face one more time and just falls over dead. And it's shocking, but it's one of those things where it's like, that could have been so much more graphic, which is weird.
It didn't need to be.
Well, no. What I'm saying is it could have been so much more graphic, but it's that perfect line of like, it was so effective. Like, because it could have been like splattering everywhere and all that, but it's not. Like, that's the thing about this movie, that like the it's not overly gory. It is gory, like, as much as it needs to be. I guess
it's what I would imagine it would be like to hit yourself in the face with an axe.
Do you think about that a lot? Do you think about that a lot when you're like living in people's houses when they don't know that you're there? You think about
Let's go back to that.
Yeah, what was that called?
Frogging.
Frogging.
It's a thing. I said I wouldn't do it.
You think about hitting yourself in the face with an axe while frogging? Is that what?
You know, it's just those thoughts that you don't act on, but they pop up. I mean, we all have them.
No, we don't. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's a you thing.
Oh, that's also just me? Okay.
Yeah. No, so.
But anyway, back to that scene. I think that, so you have the goat face on your shirt, but the cover, I think, is her on her knees with the axe.
Yeah, that's on the bottom of the shirt.
Oh, is it?
It's down here.
I can't.
It's right there.
I don't see it. Oh, okay.
There it is.
It's in the negative. Gotcha. Yeah. So I think that's really cool because the tagline for this movie is there's no point in praying.
Yep. There's no point in praying.
The fact that she's on her knees with her hands over the axe, seemingly as if she were praying, but then there's the axe in her hand. I think that is just so cool.
Well, and it's such a visual thing too, because it's like silhouetted, and it's one of those things that like the thing that makes it menacing is that the axe's blade is backwards. right? Like if it were the other way pointing forward, it looks like she's going to kill people, but it's turned and you're like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah.
Oh, you about to find out.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know? But
so that happens.
Yeah. So they're like, before that happens, they're trying to get rid of fucking Uriel's body. They accidentally fucking he fucking falls out of the back of a truck.
They lose him
because they swerve to get out of the way of a child, which did it on purpose. Like, because the kids are trying to protect.
The kids help the evil.
Yep.
Oh.
That's the same boy that comes back to the school later on, which we'll get to.
A boy on the bike. I didn't make that connection. That's cool.
Yeah. So where are we at now? So Ruiz and company are dead. And then
now we're going to Pedro's ex-wife's house.
This is the most insane moment in the fucking film, in my opinion.
Holy shit.
There's a scene later on that's like grosser or whatever, but this is just shock after shock. And I'm not talking about seeing Pedro's balls for like half a second.
Oh, I missed that.
Well, you might have to rewind.
And everything else that was going on. Right? Oh, yeah, because he did get naked.
Yeah, you just see like his left nut for half a second. And I'm like, you know what, Damien Rugna? Good on you. More balls in movies, okay? We see tits all the time. We need more balls.
You want male representation?
Yeah.
What you're saying.
The nuts are the tits of the man.
I think women would probably disagree with that.
I don't know. Well, because like man chest and woman chest aren't the same. Like we can see men's bare chest in movies and stuff, but like they like shy away from that for women, right? So I mean, I think the nutsack is probably.
I was thinking like on something that someone wants to look at. I don't want to look at a nutsack. There are guys that want to look at boobs. Like that's just a you thing. That's a you thing. I think everybody wants to see nutsack, right? Everyone wants anyway.
Everyone wants to see that nut that like silly putty covered in hair.
Stop. We have gone completely off the rails.
So we are at Sabrina's house.
So that's the one thing that was a little hard for me to understand. Is it because he was so pussy and like oozy that he needed to take his clothes off because it's not the powder, but it's the ooze? Like they were so adamant that he had. Oh, okay. You
don't take anything that's near him.
So it's not necessarily close to them as far as like sentimental value. It's close in proximity.
Yeah, okay. I look at it as like cigarette smoke.
Got it.
Like if you're around a smoker, your clothes are going to smell like smoke. Like that's the best way I guess I can quantify like what they're kind of getting at. Or like the pesticide, right? You're around it. It's going to be on your clothes. Get the fuck off. And if you mess with that, if something comes a sniffing at that, it's going to pass. So, Tasha, would you like to walk us through the Sabrina house scene? Because I would love to see your reaction to this.
I will do my best. Like you said, there is so much shit going on. He comes in, just starts stripping naked in their foyer. The ex-wife comes in, starts screaming at him. Apparently, there's a restraining order against him, and so he's not even supposed to be there. And now he's there naked, screaming, trying to take their son, little boy.
Santino.
And Santino. We have Santino and Jer, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's a little girl who must be his ex-wife and her husband's daughter.
Yeah.
So there's just this all out, it's just so chaotic. Everyone's screaming at each other. He's trying to like convey the fact that like this is happening. We have to get out of here. There's like the possession is coming, whatever. And there's like Santino wants to take their gigantic, beautiful dog. And he's like, yeah, go pack a bag. And then they're like all once again screaming in the living room. And it kind of pans out to the daughter and the dog, just like you're watching them watch the chaos, and holy fucking shit, the dog just turns its head and latches on to Victoria, I think her name is Vicky, her head. That was that oh shit moment where I didn't even know what was happening. Oh my God. And that's where the director had talked about like the black comedy. There is supposed to be a sense of humor in that. I didn't get it.
It's the humor of like, are you fucking serious?
Right.
Like,
we went there. Like usually the kids are, you know, off screen if something bad happens to them. But this is like, it sits in it. The dog like rips her under the table and is like shaking her around like a fucking rag doll and then takes off.
And I think they do it really well where it's like you see him attack Vicky and like pull her off screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you cut to Santino is watching this fucking happen, and then he runs to the parents, is like, whatever the dog's name is, I can't remember, is hurting Vicky. And then like everyone's like, what? They walk in and the stepdad or whomever, Sabrina's new husband, looks under the table, and you see this dog just shaking his head with this little girl in his mouth. They're like freaking the fuck out. And this is where I understand what he's saying about the comedy of it. In real life, this is horrifying, right?
Yeah.
But the outlandishness that now this dog just takes off out the fucking house with this girl in mouth. It's like, what the fuck? It's like there's nothing I could do but like laugh, because I'm just blown the fuck away that like literally watching this fucking happen. Dog takes off, you know, the family goes searching for him. Pedro tells new husband not to fucking kill it.
Right.
Go on.
And then he kills it.
Yeah, shoots it with a shotgun.
So we find he follows the new dad, or he follows Vicky's dad, finds the dog laying on the ground, and I believe he has a gun. I think you said he shoots it. And Vicky somehow is miraculously fine, which that doesn't make sense to me. Not a single bite on her. Is it once again because she's a kid and this was bait?
I think
to kill the dog.
Well, because that's where it gets kind of like wishy-washy, but you just kind of like go along with the ride. It's like it's one of those things of, is she back because now she's fully like taken over by the evil presence? Like because all the kids, like when bad stuff happens to them, it seems like they're fine. So is that what it is? Like, is it that kind of thing that she did get murdered, but now like the evil presence kind of reformed her? Because then when she comes back, she's like telling her mom like
that dad's gonna kill you.
Dad's gonna come back and he's gonna kill you and blah blah blah. And she's like, what are you talking about? And abruptly, dad just fucking runs them the fuck over with the truck into the house.
Yeah.
Because he hits the child too. But then it cuts and she's fine. She's standing out there. And like, it's like that kind of like, just take it as it, like, it's demons, it's evil, whatever. It just is what it is. Whatever, like, whether this is like visions or if it's real, it doesn't matter. It's just getting the point across, you know?
So we're supposed to assume that the dog became, we'll say, infected, possessed, whatever, based off of most likely the clothes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you see him sniffing the clothes.
Okay. Dog then takes Vicky. Vicky is then imparted with the possession of some case, most likely just as a conduit to continue on with the adults. Dad is clearly, the dad is possessed. It gets into him. Dad kills mom, smash. Daughter's still okay. Mom is dead.
She's dead. Okay. She's fucking, you don't get hit by like a fucking Bronco into the side of the house and they're not dead.
So they're dead and then they become like the zombified, like
correct.
It's infecting
they
the
get
dead.
Reanimated. So like it's one of those things like when the dog grabbed her, I think it grabbed her from the back of the head.
Yeah, backside. It was the head.
So we're always seeing her face. So maybe she is still a little fucked up in the back of the head, and we just don't know.
But we watch Sabrina like check her like is like playing with her hair, and there's nothing wrong with her.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take willful, like it's cool, whatever.
Willful ignorance. It's okay. Not everything needs to be described.
I can see people just being hung up on that, you know. But yeah, so then fucking Pedro gets Santino, and is it Jair?
I think it's Jair. Yeah.
Jair. And Jair is his disabled son. You later find out has autism, and it's like, what's the proper way to state it? Like, lower functioning, because I know there's like
Yeah.
high functioning, but
He isn't language abled,
there you go.
is how I like to refer to it as.
That works.
So,
Which is a shocking thing later on in the film.
yes, dude, I loved that. How they did that. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
and we'll get there. So yeah, he's taken off. They go get mom, right? Like after that, I think is their next stop.
Yep.
They go get mom. They
Go
don't.
get Granny.
Yep, they go get. I think her name's Sarah, and she kind of gives us our little explanation, a little bit of like what the rotten are, and like these. Kind of sings a little song, and he's
Great song to sing to a kid.
he specifically, Damien Rugna said that like he put this area in here. It's one of his favorite scenes in the movie because it's like we just beat you over the head with some shit, and now we're just gonna have some like weird levity and like it's just like this like road trip and like oh it's okay and everything because like we're about to fucking beat you over the head again in a little bit.
Yeah. Even though she's talking about like infecting your brain, infecting your soul. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think of it, like it seems so outlandish, but if you think about some of the songs from our youth, they're based
true.
like Ring Around the Rosies is like a legitimate horror like song. Like it's about
Yeah.
like, is it people with like tuberculosis or something like that? Like it's talking about that kind of stuff, like people dying from something, and it's horrible.
and you like you stuff flowers into their lapel to mask the smell. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's
Great.
horrifying.
So that's what Pockets Full of Posies is.
Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Like, why not? So that's kind of what they're doing here. Like they make that kind of song where it's just like, oh, there's this old song that kind of tells you about this thing that like I remember hearing about the rotten, but they don't exist. Like that's kind of what
Right.
mom's like, you know, there's a song about the rules, and that's where you kind of get the rules a little bit. And then we go on. Jimmy is telling Pedro that he knows someone that lives out there that can help them get to the city, give them
Right.
some money and get them to the city, which it's never really explained why they want to go to the city. That's something that like maybe I missed or something over multiple viewings, but it's just like it's just the plan because he does kind of do that. Why are we we're going to the city, and it just feels very much like Shot of the Dead. It's like we're just going to get to the Winchester and wait for it all to blow over, but theirs is just we're going to go to the city and like maybe they can deal with it.
Right. And it kind of plays on that bureaucracy part of, well, if I'm in the city and I'm talking to people in the city and I'm bringing it to the city, then maybe it'll get taken care of because out here,
True.
we're like all on our own.
Yeah, that makes sense. Get more eyes in front of it.
Right. So we meet Mirta. And she seems to know Jimmy, but I don't think we ever figure out how
I think
she knows him, but they just have a
think we
history
do.
together.
Their history is kind of weird. I think it's implied that they had a sexual relationship when he was younger. And if everything lines up correctly, she talks about like that her and her husband had a church.
Yeah.
And then she became a cleaner after, like, because they were charlatans and all this stuff. Like she was she lays out this whole thing about like, you know, churches are charlatans, they're stealing from people and all this stuff, and it's because of that people have turned their eye to all this stuff, and this is why blah 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 blah, right? But
Right.
I think it's kind of like Jimmy and her, like they got down.
Gotcha.
And like it was when I was a younger boy, I think is kind of how he words it. And because Pedro like talks about like, I guess maybe Jimmy has like a thing for older ladies because he like makes the mention of like you were always crying that you always wanted to go back to school and all this stuff, and like that's kind of what it's leaning towards,
Okay.
I guess. But there's a lot of like Jimmy has like a fucked up background that you kind of get like little glimpses of, and we'll get there.
Okay.
That like on first watching it just like kind of goes over you, but
Yeah.
like there's something very specific that I think there's a line you can draw.
Yeah, it was completely missed.
Well, I guess I can just throw it here
Yeah.
because we're kind of
Tell
in.
me.
Okay, so we'll build to it. So we're out here and everything. We've got grandma, we've got, you know, the kids and everything. And she says that they can just sleep here as long as they need and everything. And Grandma goes to bed with Santino, has an electric starlight on for, ambiance, and Mom shows the fuck up. This is after dead Mom, Sabrina,
Yep.
calls Pedro and is like, "You're fucking worthless. I know where you're fucking at. I'm coming to get my children." And she's like, "I saw you die." So we get to the house. She shows up in the fucking bedroom with Santino and Granny. And Granny took some sleeping pills and she's like, "Oh, I'm glad you're here." She just gathers up the kid and everything. And you see her face is just fucked up and everything. Granny then is like, "Shit's fucked up. I got to run downstairs and tell people," instead of fucking just dealing with it. But okay. Grandma is completely like the worst character in this film, and I'm so glad what happens to her at the end of the film.
Oh,
yeah, fuck
she
Grandma.
wasn't great, but I don't wish the end of the movie on anybody.
I do. Fuck her.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, so Pedro comes upstairs, right? Yeah, Pedro gets upstairs, sees Sabrina with Santino. She jumps out the fucking house, like second story window, like out the balcony and everything. And they're on a mad dash now to fucking get his son back. Right. This is also after like Sabrina shows up at the car that Jer is like sleeping in because he won't get out of the fucking car and everything. So that's super fucking creepy. Like the bloody hand on it. It's just the tension here is so fucking like, ugh. So,
and when the mom gets, like, I think the one thing that she says to Grandma and to Pedro is something along the lines of, "I have him now. I'm going to take him where he's safe." And she repeats that over and over. And then she jumps off the balcony. I didn't see it going that way.
Yeah. And it's one of two things. So, because we're just going to follow Santino and Sabrina at this point, because our story does fork at this point.
Right.
We follow Pedro and we follow Jimmy. We're just going to follow Jimmy to get to the point that I'm trying to make. Okay. So she jumps out. Are we led to believe that when she jumps out, it kills Santino? Is that when? I
would prefer that.
Okay. We'll say that for Natasha's well-being, we will say that that's what kills Santino. And then she takes off. And Jimmy's going to go track down Sabrina with Santino, and Marta, is that her name? Marta and Pedro are going to go find Uriel because they have to deal with Uriel to stop the evil.
Right. And Mirta tells Pedro not to go because the demon will play off of his fear. Correct. I really, really enjoy every layer of this plays on fear. Don't do this because. So Ruiz kills the goat for fear's sake.
Yep.
And so you're always playing with this. Everything bad happens because somebody's scared.
Yep.
The light is on for Santino because he's afraid of the dark.
Yep.
I absolutely love that. Okay. So yes, Jimmy is off finding Santino. Pedro is off with Mirta finding
Uriel.
The pussy scum.
Yes. Pussy scum. Nick Frost. No shade to Nick Frost. He's just my casted. So this is where this will forever live in my brain. So Jimmy is driving the car and he they're like no electric lights. So he's driving in the dark and then flips his lights on every once in a while to see his surroundings and then flips them off. Flips them on, flips them off. And he sees a form in the distance down the road walking. Natasha, would you like to tell me what Jimmy finds in the dark?
Okay. So walking, it's Sabrina. And at first glance, I had already seen enough. So you see Sabrina, you see her holding like this kind of drippy mass. And I was like, okay, that's good enough. I'm okay with that. And then kills the lights and he stops the fucking car. And I go, and in my head, I'm going, why are you stopping? The only reason you're stopping is so I can see what is happening right now. And I was angry. And what we see is Sabrina eating Santino's brains like a bowl of popcorn. And those were the directorial notes given to Sabrina.
Yes. That is so amazing. Yeah, just putting her hand in the top of his head pulling it out and just smashing it into his face, and then mindlessly, like, it's just evil. It's cruel. This is hell, you know?
Which was worse than I expected. I expected her to be, she's most likely eating him, and I expected her to be eating his intestines. But the fact that it's the top of his head,
it's so
and she's
much more
holding
visceral.
him still, kind of like a mom would hold a baby, and it's just up to your wrist and gore, and so that's that.
Jimmy's reaction to that is so good because he drives up and he actually passes her, and you see it out the fucking driver's side window, and you just see him like horrified, but he can't be scared, right? Fuck, what do I do? So that's when he stops the car. She walks past, and then he fucking just pedal to the metal, smashes her into a fucking tree, and kills her again.
But not.
And this is where Jimmy's darkness is shown. The evil knows you well.
But better than you know yourself.
And she's laying there. There's like literally like shit falling out of the back of her head as she's laying on it.
Front of her head.
It's just everywhere.
Off onto the dash.
And she says, "Jimmy, you told me you always loved me. You would always love me." There is a shadow. I have an inkling that Jimmy cheated with Sabrina while married to Pedro, because that's laid out that she says that she cheated on Pedro, all this stuff. That Santino is Jimmy's kid.
Oh. Oh, that's dark.
So I think that that's the thing, because the only thing that that Sabrina talks about is Jer when she's dead talking to him on the phone, and she says, "You gave me a broken child," and all this stuff. She never talks about Santino to Pedro. So like it's implied in a very like fuzzy way that Jimmy fucked his sister-in-law and got her pregnant with Santino.
And then the possessed still got their quote-unquote way by having most likely the father of Santino go after him, where they tried to flip it, and it was a double flip.
Fucking flip it and reverse it. It still
got the outcome that it wanted.
Ooh. So like that's like
deep.
There's all these like little bits of backstory that it just kind of gives you, and it's just enough. It's just enough that you go like, well, why would she say that? Then you rewatch the film, you're like, ooh. I start twirling my mustache, and so that happens. That's kind of the end of Jimmy's story at that point. He gets back to the house later on.
And why there's this other little thing. Why doesn't smashing somebody into a building, one, is she actually dead? What are we supposed to think about Sabrina at this point? Because she's still alive?
I think she still exists. I think like
she still exists. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Like it's the big thing is like she can be pinned up against that tree and everything. She's not going anywhere. The evil's not spreading from her. If you use black powder, if you shoot it, then it does. That's the rule that's implied.
But blunt force trauma is acceptable.
She's pinned there. You could kill it with an axe. You could kill it with, like, I think that's kind of what the mom does with Ruiz, where she kills herself with an axe. I don't know. Like, there's the rules are fuzzy, you know, but I'm okay. In a lesser film, I would fucking rip it to shreds, but the sum of its parts are so much better than to nitpick those rules. But yeah, I don't know.
You just can't shoot it.
Yeah, that's what all right. No electric light, like the big two. No electric lights, don't shoot it, like, because every fucking time that happens, it's far worse.
No electric lights, don't shoot it, and don't be scared.
And don't let dogs sniff your clothes.
Yeah. I try not to let that happen to begin with.
I know, right? So now we're going to follow Pedro and Marta. They are going to find Uriel. They go to the school that's full of children. Oh, sorry.
We have a big piece to circle back to talking about Jer in the car.
Yes, go ahead.
When Mirta goes to the car with, I think he's still with, no, this is before, this is even before brother leaves. Yeah. So she sees him in the car and she's like, he's he's rotten. And
Oh yeah.
that whole component, I really liked how they played into the autism component of that, where she's like, you know, I've heard about this with autistic people before, that the demon gets in and it gets trapped because it doesn't know how to work with the brain.
Yes.
I thought that was chef's kiss beautiful.
Yeah, because like, she's like, look at his hands and feet, and they're like crinkled back and stuff, like and twitching.
And it's almost like like if the demon or the spirit or whatever is in him, that's how it's like portraying itself, as opposed to outwardly, because it doesn't know how to get out.
Yeah.
So it's contorted inside of his body.
I know how to work Windows. I don't know how to work Mac. It's like basically like, that's what we got to do, guys. Us neurodivergent people, we're going to be okay.
Yeah. It's just a different way of doing things. So then I think he eventually goes inside, and he is left there with Grandma while Pedro and Mirta go to the school.
Yes, he's still in the car. He's left in the car because he makes his entrance later on into the house.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we can just talk about that and then get into Pedro. So Jer, nonverbal autistic kid, you know, like basically only speaks in like grunts and moans throughout the whole film.
He leads hands to get the things that he wants, as opposed to saying it out loud.
Yep. He literally just comes sauntering into the house and says, basically, hey, Grandma, can you make me something hot to drink because I'm cold and blah, blah, blah. And this is fucking amazing. He then grabs a sheep's blanket. It's a blanket made of sheep's wool, and throws it over his shoulders as he walks into the kitchen.
He's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
100%.
Oh, that's awesome.
So then we go to Pedro. And like, this is kind of like, I don't want to say that it's like the uninteresting, but like there's so much more going on that I like than like the school. We're dealing with the kids. So like you can fill in, but like for me, it's just like, okay, we found Uriel. He's under the floorboards. We got to kill him. The Pedro does not fucking listen to anybody when they tell him something.
Because Pedro is scared. Mirta makes a huge point of saying it's going after you, and it took your son because you are scared. You're playing into what it wants. Yeah. And she's done this. She's been around the block. She's keeping her cool, trying to get shit accomplished. So that's why he's a terrible listener, because he's so terrified.
That makes more sense.
So he plays into everything these kids are saying because it's giving him hope. It's giving him an out.
The axe. It'll get this through quicker. He goes to get the axe. They lock him in there. And then...
Shocking! The axe isn't there!
So doesn't believe or believes the kids every single time. Oh, and before we get into that, love the scene where the girl comes up to the door of his truck and is like lying to him again, and he just smokes her with the door.
And then persists to beat her. Once again, that was an oh shit moment.
The hitting her with the door, that's that comedy. Like, it's so abrupt. He's just like, you motherfucker. Bam. Whoops her ass, goes in, believes them about the axe, goes in, they wire the door shut, and then Natasha gets what she needs in life, which is a head smashing scene.
I just need to stop being the person like that.
You just need to stop being a person?
I don't need to be known as the person that wants to see heads being smashed, especially when children are smashing old women's heads.
Well, no, it's not that you want to. It's just a good barometer of, will Tasha like this movie? Someone's head gets smashed in. It's a weird like Venn diagram, but it is there.
We can put Midsummer. We can put this. I know there's another one.
There's plenty of them out there. So yeah.
Anyway. Yep, and it's interesting too. So when the lady's getting her head smashed with a hammer, I was expecting it to be an axe, since it was missing. You almost see like this, like restraint / taken abackness from the little girl that's doing it. Mm-hmm. Did you catch that? Where she slams it down, and then it's not like in a malicious way. It's almost like, ooh, I just did that. Okay, I'm gonna do it again, and then she does it again.
It seems kind of like that they're still cognizant of what they're doing. And like that kind of goes back to Ruiz's wife, like when she kills him with the axe and is killing herself, she seems cognizant of what's happening, which makes all of it far worse. That like the evil takes over your motor skills and your actions and all that stuff, but like you're still like watching it through the eyes. You know?
It's like they're being talked to and convinced. Yeah. And then it's just happening. Because we get that a little bit later in the movie also. So
yeah, she gets her head smashed in a few times. They're dragging her out, and Pedro breaks through the window, gets out, and then we see Uriel's head just kind of pop up just a little bit. He's just kind of like, you know, it's kind of like Wilson from Home Improvement. It's
oh
like,
my God.
Hey there, Tim.
Yep.
And this is all while what was her name? Marta is building this like insane like contraption that they have to use to specifically kill Rotted by stabbing them in the nape of the neck with this daggery kind of thing that she shows him.
But why do we need this giant
it looks like a telescope
circle thing? Yeah, I kept thinking it was like a sextant or yeah.
It's the American telescope. How can we weaponize this telescope?
Let's put a bayonet on it.
Let's duct tape a gun to it.
Oh my God. And it's essentially the same thing that we see at the beginning of the movie with the cleaner in the woods. Yes. But we're never really given detail, which I'm okay with since it is this lore. Because it's a myth that it's even happening. So it makes sense that people don't know a lot.
It would take you out of what's going on if it's like, well, actually, this part does this and that. It's just like, no, it's like this kind of archaic thing. It's like brass or gold or whatever it is. And it's these few parts. They make it seem like you have to be trained to put it together, but literally it's just kind of like a tripod with like you said, like a weird kaleidoscopy thing and a telescope thing and a bayonet. Like it doesn't seem that hard, but I don't know.
It seems like there's some point to the circle thing because she's like clicking it into place.
And maybe it is a thing where like you gotta align this with the stars and shit. Like, cause it kind of has like that kind of feel to it. But like, there's clearly an instrument out of these like 4 pieces that is an instrument of destruction and is this bayonet.
Right.
Pedro grabs the telescope part and beats Uriel's head in.
Which means you clearly need to know how to use it because he didn't, so he just started beating it.
Well, and she even tells him, I need to put this into the nape of the neck. And he's like, nah, hold my beer. And then just smashes his skull in, which is what he wants because now he is dead. So now essentially the Antichrist gets to be birthed.
Yeah, that was weird.
Which is really cool too, because it's this blood-soaked child that then is birthed from under the stage
floorboards.
Yep. The children are all like with him and stuff, which are kind of alluded to throughout the entire film. There's always this picture of a red stick figure surrounded by white stick figures. Did you notice that?
That was the picture.
That is specifically the birthing of this like demonic entity in human form. And it just walks off into the sunset, not before though wiping its hand on Pedro's head, which has a very interesting like parallel to who is it, Cain and Abel from like Christianity and stuff. When he smashes Pedro or Uriel's head in, Pedro is now doomed to walk the earth with a mark on his forehead, just like when Cain killed Abel, he was marked, to walk the earth.
Okay.
So it's kind of that, even though Damien Rugna said that like he's not a religious person, he did not intend for this, but like people have kind of drawn that line that it's similar because he does go, and once this happens, he just goes back home, showers, fucking gets some apple ice cream for his boy.
It's about damn time.
Yeah, he gets that nice apple ice cream, and Jer's eating it, and you can see him like out of focus up close, and Pedro's kind of doing his own thing, and Jer starts choking. Natasha, would you like to explain to me what you witnessed?
Well, for starters, people eating is disgusting to me.
Yeah, I'm gross about that too.
So you cut to him with a spoon in his mouth, a gigantic spoon, and he's dripping food and he's coughing. So Pedro takes the spoon out of his mouth and is like beating his back, like, trying to get him to breathe, dislodge whatever's lodged, like he's choking on something.
And we get to find out what's lodged.
Yeah, and that's gross. So then he starts coughing up blood, and then he's coughing up hair, and Pedro's pulling chunks of hair out of his mouth, and then the chunks get bigger and bigger, and there's more blood, and then he hacks up essentially this gigantic hairball, and we're thinking like, oh shit, I think I know where this is going. And then you see the necklace Grandma was playing with earlier in the movie, and it's hanging out of Jer's mouth.
Jer ate Grandma.
Jer ate Grandma, which I think before that, we already had the idea of the boy from Uriel's house came and stayed at their house and was in the
They made him stay out in the barn, yeah.
Right, and then you find that there's a shell missing from the gun that he had brought, and he's out there holding the gun, and he's talking to brother. I can never remember his name. He's talking to Jimmy about like this voice. So that's where you're led to believe that this voice is there, compelling. So that ties into the kids at the school, compelling me to kill him. I killed the cleaner. I chopped him in half and fed part of him to the pig, and then I ate some of him. Why that needs to happen, I don't know.
Well, then, then Jimmy's like, well, where's your mom? And he's like, or what happened to your mom? It's the same that happened to your mom. And then you find out that Jerry eats Grandma.
Yeah, and then Jerry eats Grandma, and then...
Jer.
It's essentially the end of the movie at that point.
Yeah, Pedro comes out and is fucking distraught, screaming and crying. It cuts to silence. And... falls
to his knees, screaming.
Yep.
And Jimmy comes over and is consoling him. So we're led to believe that this isn't over. And
no, they lost.
Yeah, they lost to the movie.
Yep, downer ending. But it's a great downer ending. It's like they tried, but you got to listen to the rules. You got to play the game, man. And they did not play the game right. Maybe next time, but probably not.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if there's any follow-up to like the mark on Pedro, because you had mentioned like Cain and Abel, and I saw it as like the mark of the beast in a way. Like
same idea, yeah.
Somehow he's chosen in a terrifying way, as if it's like he can never outrun it or what. But we already know that it's in Jer somehow. Yeah.
So. Oh yeah, it's everywhere now. It's birthed. It is everywhere now. So
that's the thing. If it's birthed, is it still like this air also?
I think so. Like, because it's like initially it's just the essence that's out there, but we have to kill it before all of it comes out.
Got it.
So now all of it's out, so nothing is safe. Like
hell is on Earth.
Yeah, there was a contingency plan. We're past that now. We don't know what to do now because obviously the world's never ended before. The world is over. And now we're going to get Viggo Mortensen on the road later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when Evil Lurks. So I think, let's get into our scores and stuff. Mm-hmm. I think that you're going to give this movie like an 8.
I'm giving it an 8.5.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so fucking good.
I plan on watching this again. I really liked it. I don't know what else to say other than that. It was so good. And also, like a tiny side note, I liked the fact that there was a neurodiverse character in the movie that wasn't the highlight, and it wasn't like about autism, and he just got to play like
this exists in the world.
Right. I thought that was really cool. And I like how they played into that a little bit, but almost not too much. Mm-hmm. It wasn't pandering. I mean, I'm not going to...
Yeah, they used it really well with like the shock of him not acting that way for a minute. You're like, what the fuck? And it's just one scene. So
and the fact that this was done on such a small budget, I would have expected this to be on a huge budget with all of the effects that are in it.
Yeah. The only time the effects are a little wonky is Urel's head when it's getting smashed. I think that's the only time that I'm just like, oh, that looks a little, but like you can't throw shade at it when it's like made for like nickels on the dollar, you know, like it's fucking great.
And at the same time, we don't know what a year-old pus-filled body's going to look like when its head gets smashed in. It might just be Jell-O.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
There's no more bones. It's all soft tissue.
No bones here.
Yeah, so. I liked the psychological component. Like, it is a possession movie, but it's attached to fear, and I thought that was really well done. It didn't have the priest, and it didn't have the exorcist component to it. So the fact that it was... This is my favorite possession movie I've ever seen.
Hell yeah. Nice.
By far.
Oh, yeah.
So.
All right. 8.5. Nice.
What are you giving it?
I don't know. What do you think I'm giving it?
Oh, yeah, that's right. A 9.
100%. This is a 9. This movie's fucking fantastic. I think it's one of, if not the best movies of this decade, of the 2020s. I would have to go back and look, like the two movies that come to mind that are just like, if I were only scoring it against 2020's movies, this would be a 10, right? And Talk to Me would be a 10. Like those would be like the two best movies of this decade, in my opinion, off the top of my head. I cannot wait to see what Damien Rugna does because I own this on Blu-ray. I own Terrified on Blu-ray. They're both fucking phenomenal. I suggest if you like this to watch Terrified. It's not the same movie, but it deals more with like a haunting kind of thing. But it's really cool. It's that's the thing is he takes these things, you know, possession, and I'm going to completely rewrite the script on this. Or he takes a haunting, and I'm going to completely rewrite the script on this. And it's fucking good. It's super good. And he does phenomenal work. The cast in this movie is just amazing, top to bottom. The only person that I think was weak was Grandma, but that's such a short thing. Like, it's so minuscule. But yeah, 9 out of 10. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna just give it a 10. Like, realistically, I'm just, you know what? This is our podcast. I do what I fucking want. This movie, like, it's so good. It's so good. Fuck it. I'll give it a 10. I'll give 10s to whatever the fuck I feel like.
There are no rules.
Yeah, there's no fucking rules. The world's over. Fuck it. You know? So, yeah, I'll give this, oh, fuck it. I don't care. It's a 10. I would always suggest this movie. Like, to people.
Oh,
like, straight up. Like, I don't care. Like, yeah, there's some shit in here that's like shocking and everything, but it's like the only caveat I would give is like, do you mind reading subtitles? That's it. No, I don't mind it. Watch When Evil Lurks. Fucking great movie. It's just a great fucking horror film. This is like the reason, like, I give it a 10, right? Like, you may think that I'm just throwing it. There's nothing that I can think of that makes this better. It is like, this is the best version of When Evil Lurks. I can't think of a way to make it better. It's great. So that's what I'm basing. That's what I'm basing my fucking, like, what gets a 10. I can't think of a way to make it better.
All right.
Yeah. So
what does IMDb give it?
They give it a 6.9.
What?
Yeah. Which is good for horror. Like, they don't give shit for horror. I mean, like, some of the best movies on IMDb, like, are like in the high 8s, you know, so you're never gonna get it. There's never a 10. There's barely a 9, you know.
Okay.
So yeah, fuck it, I'll give this a 10. What do we got? 10, an 8.5, a 6.9. I think we're like roughly at a 78.
You are way off this time. I'm shocked. 85.
Jesus Christ. This might be one of our highest rated movies, if not our highest rated movie. I know in the past, like, Scream was really high.
Yeah.
But this is, and that's what I'm saying. Like, this movie, yeah, it's like, it's shocking, right? But it does not fucking, like, overstay the shocking moments.
Right.
You know, like, I think it's great. So. And
I'm a proponent of that. I will be the first to tell you when things have gone on for too long, and this didn't.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm just
very good.
I'm starting to come to terms with if I can't find a reason, like, because this was my thing, right? like, I'm kind of over explaining why I gave it a 10, but I can't come with a reason why I wouldn't give it a 10. So why shouldn't I give it a 10?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, usually there's like, this was a little of this. This movie's so original and captivating. So fuck yeah, man. I am like, Damien Rugna gets another movie coming out. I'm on fucking board day one. You know, you have some extra homework. You got to watch Terrified and get back to me and talk to me about that. See what you think of that. Because that was my introduction to him. Was there's a specific scene in that movie that was like on a list of like scariest scenes ever, you know, whatever. But I was like, oh, what is this? I thought that they were talking about Terrifier. It's like, no, it's Terrified. It's like, oh, okay, what's this? Checked it out and I was like, what the fuck?
Is that as readily available as Evil Lurks?
I believe so. I know it's on Shudder and stuff, and I imagine that it's probably viewable through Hulu and stuff, considering it's all the same. Like, it's a Shudder original and yada yada yada. So it's probably watchable through Disney.
I can find it on Disney,
which is amazing.
Great.
Like, I'm not about like the big evil overlords, but the juxtapose of it being like Mickey Mouse and someone eating a child like popcorn. I'm here for it. I'm fucking here for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So we are to our last episode for Foreign Film February that is not a Patreon voted on episode. This is our last, like, cultivated
We get
one.
to pick. Yeah.
And by we, I mean me.
Right.
Because you get all of March.
That's true.
So, the last one that's on our list is from 1999.
Okay.
And we will be watching Takashi Miike's Audition. So, this film, I'm just going to give you a little bit. If you have not seen Audition, my first time watching it, I thought I was watching the wrong movie at first because it is like kind of like a romantic drama for 2/3 of the movie, it feels like, and then it's not. So go into it with that it's a slower movie. It's more about the, you know, interactions of people and all this kind of stuff. I was really like, what the first time I watched it. God, it's probably been 20 years since the first time I watched it. I've seen it a handful of times. And Takashi Miike, actually outside of horror, is one of my favorite directors. He's done a lot of like samurai films. The motherfucker's done like 200 movies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, lots of like anime adaptations into movies and stuff. But yeah, so we're going to be watching 1999's Audition for Pot of the Dead. I am Nicholas.
I am Natasha.
Come back and listen to us, or else.